On this stage will be Marlon West, and he's the animator for the movie Princess and the Frog. And guess what? Jalyn Mitchell is going to interview him, and this is going to be his first interview. How do you think your first interview is going to go?
I think it's going to go pretty well.
And I think it will go good. Time for tips. First, good eye contact. Second, speaking the mic. Third, have fun.
Oh, you know, as I got a little bit older, I liked all kinds of movies. I started liking a lot of different things. But the thing that got me into doing effects is one of my first jobs out of college was working for Encyclopedia Britannica and making educational films. And I made a bunch of educational films like that. We did everything there. We wrote the scripts and did the storyboards. But all this stuff we did was was scientific illustration. I had bronchial tubes filling with mucus and an oxygen molecule going through a forest of nose hairs and stuff like that. It was that's the kind of stuff I had on my reel when I went to LA and started saying hi, I'm Marlon, I do animation. And people looked at this stuff, and they said, well, you should do effects. And I was like, oh, okay. And I didn't know what an effects animator was. I just started calling up people. I'm like, hey, I'm Marlon, and I do effects. The whole thing about animation and film in general, but it depends on this thing scientifically they call persistence of vision. So, a projector is actually shooting frames one at a time against the screen, and it's black. If you in a movie theater, most of the time, the screen, you're sitting in a completely dark room. But your mind sees motion when those images hit your retina, the back of your eye. They lay on top of one another, and the one that comes right behind it is just a little bit different, and you get what appears to be motion, because every movie you ever see is made up of a bunch of pictures that are still frames, just like pictures in your photo album. But the fact that these pictures are so similar to one another and just a little bit different, it looks like motion to your mind. So you draw a character like Dr. Facilier or a splash like what I do, one drawing at a time. There's 24 frames in a second. That's 24 drawings for every second. And so there's a whole bunch of drawings over and over again, and they look just a little bit different than each other. So you get the perception of animation, of motion. So when you actually shoot those drawings one at a time over and over again, and they go through a camera, and they're just all a little different, you get the illusion that it's moving. But, I mean, like a computer-generated film, those actually, people aren't sitting there drawing all of those. And there's some things in here, in Princess and the Frog, especially effects, that we didn't actually draw. Like a lot of the fireflies that are flying around, when the fireflies that don't have faces, that are just little dots and things, those are computer-generated. There's a lot of computer-generated things in there, but all the characters are done the same way on this movie the way they did them in the 40s. Somebody has to sit there and draw every drawing, and then somebody has to go sit down behind that person and clean up those drawings. And when I say clean up, most character animators draw really rough. Everybody draws their own style. Each one of you, if any of you draw, nobody draws the same way in this room. But these characters all have to look the same on screen. So what they have is what they call a cleanup artist, who actually puts the character on model. It takes all the rough animators' drawings and make them look alike. So for every drawing you see for rough animation, somebody has to do a cleanup version of that drawing, one frame at a time. I think anybody who's really interested in art, and this is going to sound like the fixes in by your teachers or anything, is to get a well-rounded education. Because you need to actually have exposure to a lot of things to actually have something to make art about, to actually be motivated by and moved by other things, and base your, because none of this art comes in a vacuum. You have to do research, you have to be motivated by other things. But even though a lot of films, this is a hand-drawn film, but a lot of films are made in CG now. Anybody would tell you that being able to draw and practicing your drawing skills is like very important.
I'm with Marlon West, and he's an animator for Disney. So Marlon, what does an animator do?
Animator draws characters one frame at a time, or in my case, I do special effects, or I draw effects, water and splashes, one frame at a time.
How long have you been an animator?
I've been an animator for about 25 years, a little while.
What shows have you worked on while you was an animator?
Most recently, I worked on Princess and the Frog, but I've been there at Disney since Lion King. So I worked on Lion King, Pocahontas, Hercules, Tarzan, Atlantis, a whole bunch of them.
Have you ever made a mistake on this?
Have I ever made a mistake? Yeah, I have. My eraser gets a lot of exercise.
How do you make a cartoon?
Well, you design it and then start drawing one drawing at a time until you get them all. You get a whole bunch of them.
How does someone become an animator?
Well, it helps to be able to draw. So studying art, studying film. For me, I do special effects, which is a lot of water and fire and rain. So it's good to be able to know physics and how the natural world works.
What did you do for the movie Princess and the Frog?
I was the visual effects supervisor, so I supervised all the effects, helped design the effects in the movie, and led a crew of about 25 people.
Thank you for giving me the interview.
Oh man, thank you, brother.
Well, you just did your first interview. How does it feel?
It feels great to do my first interview ever.
These are some of the things you can improve on. Good eye contact, remember some of the questions, and just talking to Mike. Although you did do very good.
Thank you for the tips.
You're welcome.